Hey there. So my name is Gara, and today I am interviewing Rene, and I'm excited to hear about his perspective on AI, software, kind of like the opportunity that exists right now in the technology space. Rene, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So hi, I'm Renee. I live in San Francisco. I am an award-winning multi-model AI engineer. I have award wins from NAB for AI Product of the Year. I have numerous, like 7 to 9 different hackathon tops between AGI House, Founders Inc., Shack 15, DG717, Gen Lab, and many others here in the Silicon Valley that people are very familiar with. I do a lot of solo dev. I just hit my year of coding about a week ago. And in that time span, I've done all of this. I've been able to teach at City College, and I've been grateful to have this opportunity to build and do cool things.
That's so awesome. And it sounds like you just have a ton of experience kind of working in and around this community and understanding the different software that's existing right now as far as what are other people are working on. But I want you to
Yeah.
tell me a little bit more about what you're working on. Tell me a bit about Anu and like what that company is all about.
Yeah. So currently what I'm building is AnuHub, which is infrastructure for IoT AI. So I have a theory that all smart devices in the future, or any device that is considered smart, will be powered by an LLM. And these LLMs will be able to make very complex decisions. So AutoHub is infrastructure for IoT AI devices. I believe that all these devices in the future will be considered smart and powered by an LLM. Whenever these devices are smart and able to go and use LLM features, eventually I believe there will be a bottleneck where devices cannot communicate with each other. This is the difference between having a smart device and a smart home and a smart city. So currently what I'm experimenting with is this concept of allowing smart devices to go and communicate with each other and make autonomous things and movements without needing a human in the loop. For example, earlier this week, I was able to take a 3D printer, I added AI to it, and now anytime any of my AIs send it a message, it can communicate back and forth to go and create a cool product and 3D print it at will. I don't have to be in the loop. No human needs to be in the loop. It just can automatically do it.
Interesting. So, who is making the request? Who's taking the initiative and determining that a print is required to be made? Who's making that executive
Yeah,
decision?
Yeah, so there's this other concept, and this is I realize in AI, not many people, depending on where you're on AI, you may know only about ChatGPT. Maybe you're a little bit further and you know about APIs. Maybe you get a little bit further and you can learn about LangChain, where you can add tooling and stuff. Whenever you start talking about my product, there's this thing called a swarm hive mind mentality, where you have one main, like, think about a company. A company has a CEO. That CEO can go and assign different things to people underneath that person. Those people assign things to other people underneath them until it gets to the workers and they work together. Now, if you replace that entire stack with just AI workers can work autonomously in specialties based off what their criteria is, you can go and let them decide different things. So one example is I could have one central hive mind AI that can control all my devices. I have a device that does 3D printing, and then I have devices that do other types of stuff that I can't talk about because I know that people are building this also around me, and they probably don't want me to talk too much about that.
I
But
lost you there.
it's the
Oh,
same
okay.
concept.
So you know
Oh,
that other people are building this. Okay.
well, it's a double dual joint effort on this specific part because I don't build hardware. I build AI and software, but I have this really cool team that I've been working with to go and build the hardware side. And they needed the hardware for this to go and start like working well. And like, all right, well, this is a good use case. Let me go ahead and just build out the communication side of it. And that's what I kind of started doing. So I don't want to like go into too much, but that specific part about me being able to go and communicate between the swarm mentality to all the other devices, that is all what I'm specifically building. And that's what I'm very passionate about.
So who would you say your customers would be for this? It sounds like almost like infrastructure, like communication
Yes.
infrastructure.
Yes. So potential B2B options that I'm looking at would be like Samsung, LG, Google for the Nest, anything that would be a smart home appliance. Those are things that I'm really targeting. I'm also targeting anything in the industrial automation side, such as ABB and Rockwell. I believe that if I can go and take current factories and warehouses and automate them into smart warehouses where you can just have any product be built just by sending in some information and you don't need a human in the loop to solve any of that. I think that'll be the future of manufacturing. And I think that's something very important here in America.
So let's talk about a use case that maybe somebody in our audience would understand. So let's look at it
Sure,
this way. Let's say Sharp makes a coffee maker and
sure,
they install this technology on the coffee maker, and
sure.
it would enable you as a person, when you plug in the device and put it on your network, you'd be able to say, hey, new coffee maker, I'm going to put you to work for me. And you're going to make me coffee every morning at 8 a.m. Every morning, be sure this everything is prepared to get this done. And then essentially the device would program itself to be like, okay, so instead of going in there pushing like 100 buttons, you're pretty
That is correct, but I think we would even take it a step further. Let's say you're just an independent person and you're trying to make maybe a coffee business. You're just trying to make some money. It's very natural out here in San Francisco to have a hustler mentality. Well, maybe you might start getting a line of customers. You're only one person. You can only do so much. What if you were able to go and with natural language tell your coffee maker like, "Hey, this one I need to be done this way, and then the next order would be this and this and this." You can go and just, I mean, there is ways you can obviously just give it like certain information and it can be automated to a normal certain point. But this allows it for options for debugging in real life scenarios where the person's like, hey, you know what? This user, I know we ordered them whatever, but we're gonna go ahead and just add on an extra shot. Can you go ahead and just do it? It's the same thing like talking to a regular person. And this specific ability to go and allow debugging in the loop, but using autonomous AI through any type of real world application, that's where I think there's a lot of application and value there, because now we are no longer limited to just your one self doing whatever it is. Now you have multiple things that can work for you and work together, so that way you don't have to worry about that. Even if it's down to, like, let's say shipping and ordering everything, you don't know about any of that. You don't want it to do any of that. Your AI can communicate like, hey, this AI said I've already used this much product. Cool. This AI can go and just get the information from the first AI, and it can start making automatic purchases and even just chat with you like, hey, what's your thoughts on this? Do you have any upcoming events and stuff? And with that information, you can have the AI just create custom stuff. The entire thing is just to make it custom, like if you had another human with you.
one of these massive manufacturers would be really hard. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars building out their kind of like process to get these machines into people's houses and make them safe and blah blah blah. Like,
Yep.
changing that up is so difficult. How how are you going to make money if these big manufacturers are just like, we're going to do this ourselves, or we're just not going to
Sure.
change anything because we don't have to, right? Because people know how to use
Yeah.
coffee makers and how to program coffee
Hmm.
makers. But maybe you're talking about, coffee makers was the example that I gave. What practical use case would you give that you think would be like hey, this would be a market that I could really crush that need this
Yeah.
technology?
Yeah. I think the very first one would actually be anything in like 3D printing, because I do think it's very innovative to be able to not have to understand like anything about even art. You could give it an image, and with just an image or even just describing a type of image, you could have it create the image, turn it into a 3D model, and then use that 3D model to go and print out the product onto any type of device. That's really cool, because if you say like, hey, I need a cool mini table for this Barbie set that my child has, you don't have to go out and look for it. You don't have to find these random parts. You can just have it automatically do it just by simple talking. I see, though, with a lot of it currently, that in the industries, there is a giant lack of interoperability and communications. Even 3D printers are isolated devices unable to communicate with each other. There's a lot of these devices that are considered isolated, especially in the warehouse industry. I believe that if you have a product and you can make someone more money than whatever you're charging them, especially if it's a lot of money, they're not going to care too much. So I can go and automate their warehouse to be, it can build anything. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Actually have a Creality CR10. It's something that I put a lot of time into, like learning how to print. Is a very time consuming and
How long did it take you to learn?
There is no finish line. Like I probably spent a solid couple of months just really getting into a good groove as far as like having a nice stream of prints coming that I was
How long
satisfied.
did it take for your first print?
I don't
From
even
like
remember. I think
start to finish from like learning.
I printed the little boat, the Berkey or something like that.
Yeah.
It probably took like 4 or 5 hours to print it on the settings that I had.
Mm-hmm. But how long did it take to learn how to set up the settings?
Oh,
And
a
then
lot.
get the whole
That's why I thought it was really
it
interesting.
Months, days, week?
I would say that it took a solid weekend, just me trying to figure stuff out until I was able to kind of print out that boat.
Like 12 hours maybe a day?
Yeah, for sure. Between the 2 days, I kind of was able to assemble everything and get it balanced, figure out gluing it to the base thing. It seems like AI would be a really interesting use case because there's actually in many systems, they have cameras built in, or what I set up with the Creality CR10 was this thing called Octopus, which is not Arduino, but
know.
You know what I'm talking about. It runs on the little computer, not the Arduino, but the Raspberry Pi. So it's like essentially a Linux install that you put on the Raspberry Pi that enables you to queue up prints, but you can pretty much have an AI system run on that, right? Just have an input of the camera and be able to essentially diagnose what the hell's the problem just by looking at your print. Pretty much like built-in troubleshooting.
What I have mine on.
What's that?
Take a wild guess what I have my thing running on.
Probably the Raspberry Pi, it sounds like. Yeah, that's really cool. That is an exciting use case. I think if you build that out, there's a case that could be made to kind of sell these to people directly who have 3D printers, and essentially there's a product there for sure.
Well, there absolutely is, but I'm definitely thinking more along the lines that what if you had a device that allowed you to create anything you needed to? It could be 3D printed. It could maybe have like screws and stuff, like circuitry that needs to be soldered and stuff. If you had one AI device that can go and control multiple pieces, you have an automated factory. That's instant B2B for any type of person that wants to create anything. They want to, huh? Futuristic. It's already almost done. What you mean futuristic? I've been working on it this week, and we already got like most of it done this week.
Particularly because I mean, my complaint with my Creality FDM printer is the quality of the products that it prints still feels cheap. I'm not going to take that and use it as production ready iPad mount. It's going to shatter the material and my iPad is going to fall. So in that sense, as far as FDM printing goes, it's still for prototyping, but the materials will get better, right? Our kind of methodology for creating these layers will improve. So I can only imagine.
You could always do metal printing too.
That's true, but those aren't as accessible as all of these other types of printing technologies. FDM has no smell. It's fairly straightforward. It has the least amount of downsides. So I can imagine this technology is going to be most applicable to just making that work better than, trying to make metal printing more accessible or something like that.
As soon as I had the AI set up with the 3D print, I had my first print within my first thing printing within 2 minutes.
That's so cool.
The AI just created the code and converted it and sent it.
It immediately makes me think of this other thing that I was looking at. Are you familiar with the project One Page Rules? To get super nerdy. We're about to go down
No,
nerd.
I'm thinking of a research paper company. No, I don't think this is
No.
the same company you're
So
talking about.
one-page rules pretty much creates a set of rules for a really simple tabletop game. So it kind of makes. Have you ever played games like Warhammer or Warhammer Fantasy?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
Oh
those
yeah.
games are very complex. You need to read a full book. You need to have like a PhD to put a list together. What one
Yeah.
page rules does is it makes playing that type of game really easy just based off of a one page set of rules. So check this out. Here's the kicker. There's essentially like this groundswell movement in the resin printing space where individuals are like creating the most beautiful 3D models you've ever seen, and they're printing it themselves, and they're using the one page rules system. They essentially have like an ecosystem that enables you to create your own faction, create your own army within their like setting and infrastructure. And then you can 3D print your army and then play against each other with those armies. So like it's such a brand new way of thinking when it comes to playing games together, where instead of like the Games Workshop model where they stamp out these little figures and then you pay an insane amount of money for them.
$50 a fucking figure.
It's insane.
It's so expensive.
The market is ripe for disruption. And this type of approach where people are 3D printing their own armies and then painting them and then creating their own rule set for them. It kind of
Yeah.
It's such an exciting space for human innovation. And I think AI has a role to play here as well when it comes to like developing the 3D printing space and making it easier to create cool stuff. So like in that same vein of like games and tabletop, you can essentially be like, oh, hey, this army has a cool theme. Let me imagine what their architecture would be like. Let's print out their architecture. Let's build out like the story that's related to this theme and setting. I think those types of ideas are pretty interesting, and they're being done today. There's actually 3 major studios that do this, like design minis and put them out for people to download and print. They essentially use this one-page rule system to create rules for all their models. So not only do all the people that follow them now can use these models inside of other systems like Warhammer and Warhammer Fantasy, but they can actually print them out and play them with their own unique set of rules. It's really exciting. I could see why you're interested in the space.
It's just fun. I just have a lot of fun. I'm really just interested in the ability that like if I need something done, my AI can do it already for me on the software side. Why can't I have it also create more? And why can't I have it innovated into other products such as smart cars, smart drones, smart planes, smart shipping devices? It'll allow a lot of seamless communication and transportation between a lot of routes, and I'm excited for the future of this. Yeah, so the core part is IoT is such a vast, like, there's so many different types of like pies and different types of things. You need basically special documentation for almost every single one of these type of things. When we start adding LLMs to these devices and creating them smart, you don't need anymore an operator that understands that specific device, that specific Raspberry Pi 3B with Debian installed. You don't need to know any of that. You just need to go and talk with natural language to the AI, because the AI in each device, no matter what type of IoT device it is, will be able to understand and allow more things to be happening. If you say like, hey, I don't know how to control this IoT, I don't know, refrigerator. You don't know how to, update or anything. Well, you can use an AI to do it. The AI can check the code, it can update the code, and it can move the code and do things and execute stuff with it. And that's what I think is it's the most exciting part, is just being able to go and work on things that are not everybody's going to be a specialist in. Allowing generalists to do things is cool. Oh no. Are you there? I think I froze you out.
Hey there. It's all good. No. Okay, well, you're back, so it's all good. Okay, so where I last left off was I asked you, what do you think is the biggest opportunity for AI in the Internet of Things?